So hey, I'm Julian from the Ambitious Love podcast, and today I'm gonna interview Chris and ask him what he's doing right now, how he got there, but most importantly, why he's doing what he's doing at the moment. And so starting off with, thanks for being here, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
And maybe tell us in a couple of minutes, like, what are you doing right now and where's your point and which stage are you?
Okay, so I just finished my studies. Actually, this is my first podcast, which is pretty funny that we're doing it at the last day of my university. So that's pretty cool. And most importantly, kind of to tell you where I am right now, you got to look into the past of where I come from. So that's kind of something that I want to talk about. What I always say, and which I think is very important, is to know where your roots are, your family. So I guess most of who we are is for sure our surroundings, my parents. So my mom is Chilean, my father is German, and my family is kind of all over the world, but never besides me. In my heart they are, but they're always like geographically in another city or country. And just like having that mix in me with a Chilean mom, which is like very emotional, very like, always happy, always wanting to do something, always like, when I tell her, Mom, I want to do something, she's like, okay, let's go, let's do it. And on the other side, my dad, who's like more logical, more, let's say, calm, more, if you're gonna do something, you gotta think of the consequences. That's kind of like
really structured and thinking.
Yeah, that's kind of like a mix that I got ingrained in me. That kind of, I don't want to say it makes me feel special, but kind of, I sometimes think differently. And then always like thinking about that I was shy when I was younger. I grew up in a very, let's say, normal household. I didn't have to work at night to get food. I was privileged. I always had my friends. Everything was easy. I was good in school. I wasn't bad. I wasn't excellent. I was normal good. And then at 17, I said, okay, I want to change something. I had fear, but I said, I'm going to move out. And then I moved out, to study. And that was actually like the best experience because it kind of forced me to become different. Mm-hmm. And don't ask me how, but I kind of got a book about self-development, and that's how the journey started. And that's why I'm here right now. So kind of 4 years ago, I started with the self-development journey and kind of working on myself, which then kind of changed me from being shy into being a person that is driven, ambitious, open-minded, still knowing that I am shit in a lot of things. So I know that I need to improve at a lot of things.
Scary if you wouldn't.
Yeah. But yeah, just like everything that happened in the past brought me here.
Yeah.
And most importantly, what we also talk about is that I went to China, where I had a great mentor who was a professor at my university, but really I had my dreams figured out sometimes a little bit, but he kind of gave me the power to pursue them, to be more confident, to do more things, to just take a camera and talk in front of the camera, to dream, kind of to give me the permission to dream.
Okay.
And then actually like, experiences like doing internship in Silicon Valley, meeting a president, meeting Gary Vee, traveling right now, I'm 21, traveling to 40 countries in the world.
Oh, damn.
It kind of gave me the force to say, okay, there's a lot possible in life, so let's dream and let's do.
Wow, that's a impressive CV until now.
Yeah.
Wow, what a long journey you already went through.
Yeah.
And you said starting with your journey started from the self-development book which you read. Which one was it?
Who Says You Can't Do?
Oh.
I don't know if I would read it again or if I need to recommend it, but it just helped me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there were like a lot of books, endless nights, podcasts. I stayed up all night with Tony Robbins books, with Gary Vee, with Compound, like all kind of books. And kind of everything gave me always a little bit more.
Yeah. I think that I find really interesting because I also cannot say that at some point like there was this moment where I started now being more in the self-development, or where I started to finally get into doing a podcast or whatever, but rather the continuous knowledge of Gary Vee, of Tony Robbins, of reading those books, like everything together kind of seemed to get me to this point where I'm now. So not just like, because often you hear that like, okay, this moment changed completely my life, the course of my life, and now I'm this person. But rather the continuous information of those.
I guess you sometimes have like small breaking points, but they're like, you only get to these points by, as you say, getting small things. Like I always think about, if you put water into a glass, then like each small piece of water, until like it's the last one, then it will flood over. You know what I mean? I guess
the water drop.
Yeah. And that's kind of, I think also in life, you do have that breakthrough, but you need to work to them by continuously small steps. And it's like, I don't know, it's like small things sometimes can mean so much, like going out and kind of feeling rejected or not talking to someone on the party. It could be like a start to start your diet because you're like, oh, I need to change something. And sometimes like all these small things can also mean a lot because they give you the momentum to start something.
Oh, okay. So even like when you think about rejection or something bad happened to you, that can be the starting point of your positive development.
But it's also funny because before I would have been devastated and unhappy and will be thinking like, oh, I'm bad.
Yeah.
I'm rejected. But that also just became a breakthrough for me because before I consumed a lot of Tony Robbins. And that's kind of like, you have that daily affirmations. And for example, I went to that Tony Robbins event and he always says, life is always happening for us and not to us. And I repeated it so much into myself, like it's kind of like ingrained. So every time something happens, I kind of like switch and I'm like, okay, what does this mean?
Wow. Okay.
And that is like, as you said before, you need to work until that point. And then sometimes it's like really bad things can happen, even at home or with my parents. And then I'm always like, yeah, I get upset, I'm unhappy for some minutes. And then I'm like, okay, what does this mean? Like, I know that life is happening for me, so let's find it. And that's really something that is very powerful.
Wow. So the super important part for you is not just having the motivation to change something, but rather, as I see, like the mindset that really you see the purpose of those things happening to you. You see why those are happening, and not just making your mind up about something bad happened or rejection or whatever, but rather, okay, what is this teaching me?
Yeah.
And I guess this seems to be the most important part of the whole process, that you change your perspective on those things and learn how to take something out of it. Like, I guess well, actually I talked with, in another podcast about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And that seemed to be also pretty similar to what you just said, like the belief that you can change something and you take some new information in to make something better. So even new information as the rejection, you take it and what can I learn from this? How can I get even better? So this seems to be like super, super important in the whole process of the self-development.
Yeah. And I also think it's a lot about perspective. So it's like, it may sound a little bit corny or different. Let's say, I think about that. I believe that there's something like grace, or if you call it God, or an force or something, because sometimes things happen in life that are crazy. Like, for example, I was walking through Bangkok in Thailand, and there's just a guy from my hometown sitting in front of me in a restaurant. So it's like, I think that sometimes things do need to happen. Like, why I went to China thinking about, I want to calm down, I don't want to party that much. I didn't thought that I knew that China will change me, but never in an amount that changed me there. Like, I found that mentor who like took me by the hand and just like changed me completely. So I think there is like sometimes grace or something bigger that we cannot understand. So maybe that's what I would say right now for someone that is listening right now will be like, okay, Chris, that is like a strange perspective, or you're spiritual or something. That's like one perspective. On the other side, I have that perspective of, for example, hard work beats talent or something. It's like practical. You can like be super spiritual or like super realistic or whatever, but hard work beats talent, or hard work means something to your success. Yeah. So that's like one perspective. And then I also think like, I don't know, the perspective of your parents, which they gave you, a perspective of university friends. So I feel like we get so many perspectives, and once we surround ourselves with different environments, we get a different perspective. So I guess every one of you, and you too, like after you said you went to Australia, you came home and something happens, you're like, okay, this is different than I thought maybe before. Yeah. So that it's like, and once you kind of acknowledge these perspectives, you can use them for you.
Yeah. I think that is really powerful to show you when you get new perspectives. For me, it seems just like when people are traveling, so getting out of their normal environment, they get, as you said, different perspectives, and then they are able to use them whenever it's best for them, and not just having the same perspective all the time, but rather you can pick the one that fits right now best and makes you feel better, or makes is more appropriate in this specific situation.
And what's super funny that I already kind of feel I have cool perspectives that make me successful. But then I'm like, I don't know, let's say the past 1-2 weeks, I haven't read a lot. Yeah. And I'm already feel like, okay, I'm in need of new perspectives again. So I'm like, you continuously get them through something. Yeah. It's like, it could be traveling, it could be reading, it could be a podcast, it could be listening to a video or something, watching a video. So you kind of like, I am a person that I love new perspectives. Yeah. But then I believe there are also people that just like don't need it that much, which then comes also to the human needs, which Tony Robbins talks about, like uncertainty and certainty. Some people just like want things to be as usual. They want more of the calm life, which is fine. I sometimes admire them and would love to have it too. But I'm just like more of a person that like needs change and uncertainty and new perspectives always, every day.
Now that you say it, what is your like look forward to? What are you trying to create in the near future? Obviously, you don't know later on, I assume, but what is your vision now? What do you want to do in the next few years?
So it's super funny, kind of, I have my dream, my vision for I do have my next goals too. But like my bigger vision, I have it, which is I want to help people. I want to improve people's lives. I want them to be more motivated, more self-loving, more putting the ego aside, but on a practical way. And then I'm like, I know that getting to that dream or vision, there are different ways to do it. So I have like my plans for the next few weeks, months, years. But I can imagine, as I said before, life is always happening for us, that maybe in 2 years I get a call and I do something differently. So right now I'm just, trying to do more content, putting out more videos and podcasts that can help people. I want to do an internship, as we talked about, in consulting, as I'm still figuring out if I'm an entrepreneur or a businessman with entrepreneurial tendencies. I can see myself in both situations. And then also doing a master's outside of Germany, which is new perspectives, which is pretty funny because I also have that perspective that the education system that we have nowadays is not the best one, because we just get taught by people that have an older perspective, which I can give you later on an example why I think it. But many things that we right now need in the world, thinking about AI, all this new topic about self-development or self-motivation, love, or really just knowing how do you get happy? Sounds super corny, but in university and school, you never hear that question. So I feel like that makes our educational system not the best.
Okay.
Which makes it super important for us, for example, for other people to do videos and podcasts. That's how we learn. That's how we learned with books. But I also believe that we need the educational system because it gives us time. And for me, for example, I want to work in a business. I do need a good master's degree, so I will adjust to that. But in my free time, I will do something different. So I was like having the two perspectives.
Yeah. And so you're figuring kind of out in which direction you want to go now. But you had already the drive of, I want to share that with others as well. Like I want to help the others to maybe get a practical way, and like the ego side to live a more full and happy life. Where's this coming from? Yeah,
that's super funny. Kind of, we talked about it before as well.
I know. That's why I asked.
Yeah. It is like when I was younger, I did have dreams, but no real dreams. It was like I was dreaming, but I knew, okay, they're only dreams. I won't get them. But then, as I said before, I got that mentor in China, and kind of like and we can do it all. Like you don't need to achieve something big to become a dreamer or an achiever. Like super practical. If you think about, or the people listening, if you think about 4 years ago, what were your goals? It was like, I want to finish school. Which is right now, if you think about right now, it's like, that's like super easy, like super shit. But then like right now, like before it was something big for you, but then you achieve it and you forget it. And then kind of like, if you think about it, you achieving already many things, you're like, okay, why can't I not achieve something even bigger? And that's what happened to me as well. I was like, okay, sometimes I want to live alone. I did it. Sometimes, like in some time in the future, I want to travel alone. You say it when I were like 17. Like with 19, I was traveling to China and living alone in China. Then I got that dream in working in Silicon Valley, which I thought about, okay, I'm a business student. I will, maybe with 45, I will work there for some weeks or month. Then I achieve it. And then it was like, they may seem small achievements for others or bigger for others, like all perspective things. But then like, if you consciously think about it yourself, then I kind of thought, okay, I can achieve all these things. So why don't just achieve more? And then it was also, which I believe is also a big mistake of our educational system, or even our parents, to be honest, although I love my parents, but our parents never sit down and say like, okay, let's write your dreams down. Tell me your vision for the next 5 years. Like they kind of say it like, what do you want to do after school? And then it's like 5 minutes and then it's over.
They don't. It's nice to hear, I want to be a firefighter or something, but they don't really ask that question.
And then it's something different, which I never thought it is a difference, but actually writing it down and really making it emotional. So kind of like visualizing it and kind of like giving yourself like 2 hours, just like sitting down and writing down whatever you think about your future. Which was super powerful for me because my mentor in China did it with me. And he was like, okay, I guess he said like every 5 years in your life needs to be 1 page. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. But then you kind of, once you need to write that much, you kind of get clearer with your dreams. And he kind of gave me, it sounds super stupid, but he gave me the possibility or like the entry ticket to dream. And then once you do it, you just do it your own. But you kind of need your environment or someone to give you that permission, because when you're young and when you never thought about it, you won't come up with the idea, okay, let's dream now.
That's, with writing it down, so important. And now do it even every day for journaling. This just helps you so much to really focus on the things that you would like to do, and especially stay focused on the goals you wanted to achieve. And so that some people say, yeah, I think sometimes about it, like in the evening when I go to bed or something. That's something completely different.
It's a bit different, yeah.
It's completely different. So for everyone who's, I don't know, really wanting to go a bit further or wanted to create somewhere a pull towards the goal, then write it down. Please write it down. And also get like some people around you that support you. I think that's what you said is also super important, that you have some people around you who either give you the ticket to dream, or if they don't have the abilities to give it to you or something, then just if you put out your dreams, they at least support you and say, I don't know whether I could do this, but I believe you can. So go for it.
And that's also like, as you're talking about people, it's about having optimistic or pessimistic people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something which is really difficult for us, I think. Even for me, because I was like, in our heart, if you think about it, we know if the people next to us is pessimistic or optimistic. We just know it, like you can feel it. And sometimes we need to be truthful for ourselves. I have shared it sometimes, but I can share it. Like, my dad is pessimistic, although I love him so much. My dad is pessimistic.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is optimistic, but like very much. And then kind of like, if you know for yourself how, like the first instance to know yourself is, who are your parents?
Mm-hmm.
Like most of the time we are reflections of our parents, because that's who we spend our most of our time with in our youth. And then like, once you kind of understand the way your parents think and they think themselves, and then they make you think the same way, because we're just a reflection when we're young. We don't think about ourselves.
Of course, yeah.
And then like, once you understand that, okay, I'm pessimistic because that's the only thing I knew from my younger days. I'm fortunate, I gotta say, that I'm very optimistic because my mom is super optimistic.
Yeah.
Like, she's pure optimism, like with everything. But I'm also very happy because most of the time when you're like super optimistic, you get delusional. You're like, oh yeah, let's climb the wall. And you need to be realistic as well. And that's what my dad gave me as well. So what I want to say, coming back to dreaming, is you need optimism. And once you have optimistic people around you, you will start eventually also dreaming with them, which then can also lead you to dream for yourself. But if you're like surrounded only with negative people, you will never dream. You will only be thinking like, oh, I got the wrong milk in my coffee. But you won't be thinking like, oh yeah, I've got the wrong coffee. Why don't we do a coffee shop? Which could be like the other side.
Yeah.
Just like some example, which is maybe not the best one, but kind of like,
get the point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like really knowing where you come from, understanding and not judging it. That's also very important. Like, a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm not fortunate, I'm not rich, so that's why I'm not happy and I don't have possibilities. Like, not judging it, just knowing, okay, I am maybe, let's say, 1/4 optimistic and 3/4 pessimistic. Okay, now I know why. Let's change it. Let's have more optimistic people. Let's listen to a cool podcast which has optimism, and that will make you positive as well.
That's nice. And you wanted to also, you said about self-love and the ego. Like, why is the self-love such an important topic for you?
I mean, you always hear it. It's super corny, but you need to be selfish in order to be selfless. You need to be selfish in order to be selfless. And that's, I think, so much like, you can only be happy, spread happiness. You can only be successful if you're happy or if you love yourself. Like, if you're unhappy and if you don't love yourself, you need to treat other people badly so that you feel better, because you then like, oh, okay, for 5 minutes, my friends are laughing about that person because I made a joke about that person. So you feel better. But then after 5 minutes, you need to get that instant gratification as well. And you do again something. So you're always kind of in the short term trying to gain pleasure by making other people unhappy or feeling bad. so that you can feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I believe that self-love is like super important, because once you love yourself, you don't need to be bad to other people. You can like be positive because you love yourself. You can, even when it's unfair, you sometimes just take a lose or a loss because you're like, okay, it's okay, let them love about me. And it's like much more fun to live a life when you love yourself. And it's cool because I guess in the past I wasn't always very loving myself, but now I am.
Okay.
And it's cool. Which also then leads to ego, because it's like you gotta be thinking about yourself, okay, I'm the best. But we all know people that think they like always I'm the best, and we don't like them because they're just like, it's too much. It's arrogance or something. Like on the other side, you need to be like, okay, I'm not the best. So it's kind of like most people talk about balance, and I always think about like the extremes are the balance. So I'm always like, okay, I'm the best, let's do it. But then I'm like in the same situation, I'm like, okay, I am the worst at this. Let me learn from you or from someone something. Mm-hmm. So that's like also with the ego. Like I feel like if you love yourself, you can put your ego aside and you can learn something. So you can be like very humble, and always also knowing that I have my big dreams, for example, right now, but I won't go on stage tomorrow or lead a company tomorrow because I'm not in the right place right now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, the extremes of handling self-love and really knowing that there is so much that you can learn.
But it seems then for you also the part of self-awareness is super important, that you know also your strengths, your weaknesses, and where you can put them into play, but also where then in a sense are your weaknesses, so you know where you can adjust them and maybe find also the right spot for you with those strengths and weaknesses for it. So that makes it, I feel, also a lot easier to then get the self-love, because you're in the right place, can execute on the things that your true essence actually wants to do. Yeah. And once you do that, it becomes much more easy to feel and be the person you are, and then self-love is a lot easier to get there.
Yeah, and quite often, as you were talking about right now, also strengths and weaknesses, I feel like once you're a dreamer, kind of strengths and weaknesses don't play a role anymore.